Thank you so much, and good afternoon. I think it was this time, it wasn't quite, it was about 9 months ago. I want to take us back to the spring. Actually, I remember our now commander, I think, was chasing after somebody on the street during that announcement. But we acknowledged that coming out of the pandemic, that traffic, which has always been a challenge in our city, and so has pedestrian fatalities, but that it had even gotten worse. And what we also said is, we're actually going to do something about it. And we said, give us some time. We're going to test some different things, and we're going to see how they work. And today is an update on how these things have been working for the city of Albuquerque. Now, there's a couple of aspects that we're going to touch on today. First and foremost, our traffic unit has become much, much more assertive and effective, and is demonstrating that our streets are getting safer. And so we're going to go over some of their results, but the short story is that our traffic unit has done more this year than they ever have in the history of our city's operations with respect to what we do in terms of speeding and traffic enforcement on our streets. Now, there's obviously much, much more to be done. We still hear the mufflers, we still see the pedestrian fatalities, but I think we also see progress in the right direction, and that's what today is all about. It also means that we're sending a message to Burqueños and people in the surrounding area who are coming through here, that things are changing in Albuquerque. If you drive recklessly, the chances of you getting caught are a lot higher than they were before. Now, when you layer this into our automated speed cameras, which again, I think it was only 9 months ago when we announced this, and what has happened to the streets where those are up and the general attitude of the city, we are seeing a change in what's happening with speeding on our streets. And it's all part of our commitment to Vision Zero, this concept that we should have zero pedestrian fatalities with respect to traffic situations, and we should have safer roads. So we're going to continue down that path. We're going to continue adding speed cameras. We're going to continue using them. And I thought it was in many ways a nice compliment, which we don't usually get, to see the county looking at joining us in those efforts. This is just how modern traffic safety is all across America. And Albuquerque is finally catching up, and it's having an effect. People are slowing down on the road. So we're going to continue to work on this, but know that we're dedicated to this vision. And we know that at least we're going in the right direction for the first time in many years. And we're going to continue in that direction going forward. So with more on this, Chief of Police Harold Medina.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I want to take us back 1 year, and I want us to think where we were as a police department, where the community's police department was. We were struggling through monitors reports. We had a clearance rate of in the 50s in homicides, and our traffic was the #1 most complained thing that we were hearing about. And I want to thank all the leaders within the Albuquerque Police Department for how they stepped up to the plate in the last year, and we'll be releasing more information on each of these topics in the weeks to come, but traffic was one of those places where we needed leadership to step up. We needed leaders who would inspire, motivate, and get our officers to do extraordinary things. We knew that we had reduced numbers, and I want to thank the leadership that's here today, because you did. You accepted the challenge, you stepped up, and you made a huge difference in the safety of people on our roadways within the city of Albuquerque, and I can't thank you enough, and the citizens of Albuquerque can't thank you enough for everything that you've done to dedicate yourselves to make sure that our streets became safer. Last year, as you know, we issued less than 20,000 citations as an agency. I'm happy to say that this year we have increased that by 80%, and this year our officers have issued 32,000 traffic citations as opposed to last year, or 34,108, a little behind on there. And I think this 82% increase is huge for us as a department. Departments across the country are strapped with resources. We actually have less people assigned to our traffic section, and they are making a bigger difference than more individuals did in the last time. In February, we held a press conference, just like we're doing today, and we talked about what we're going to be doing to ramp up citations, and these are the results. We also made some other changes. We talked about our public service aids and how we're going to utilize public service aids, and we're going to think outside of the box. And our traffic section came with the recommendation, Chief, let our traffic officers give tickets during the peak times. And I'll be honest, there was pushback from within the department. Union called me concerned. They're like, what are you guys doing? That's what our traffic officers are for. And I think the results have been great. Our traffic citations are up, and I am told that the traffic unit alone gave more citations this year than the entire Albuquerque Police Department did last year. So sometimes we have to be bold, we have to make changes, and we have to look outside the box. I want to thank the mayor, city council, everybody who supported automated enforcement. That's another step in the right direction. I want to thank Commander Joe Veers. He approached us, and we're not done making changes. He approached us about finding ways civilians could assist us, just like we're trying to do in other divisions. And earlier this week, he let me know that we are working on 2 civilians that are going to help with fatal crash investigations and clear up hundreds of hours that our officers spent in trying to complete those investigations. And he has plans to hire 2 more. This is only we are only able to accomplish this because of the support from the administration ensuring that we could budgetarily move monies the way we need to ensure that we hire what we need during this time that we're seeing a shortage. Unfortunately, we did have a lot of incidents during the course of the year, and we'll continue to investigate them, but we'll continue to work as hard as we can to ensure that we continue to issue citations, be innovative and make changes, reallocate resources when we have to, and make sure that we're doing everything we can possible to make the streets of the city of Albuquerque. And before I turn it over to Deputy Chief Smathers, I just want to mention one other thing is our DWI unit is like any other unit that it doesn't have as many resources as it used to. And when I saw the statistics today that they had increased the number of arrests last year by 100, given the fact that they have less officers this year than they did, I think that's just another testimony to leadership. And I want to thank you, Sergeant Johnson, for all your hard work in making sure that our DWI arrests are up, even though we're working with less resources. So thank you also for your commitment. And we don't forget that DWI also is a huge issue in our community. We're not just going to focus on traffic, we're also going to focus on drunk drivers, and we will continue to work hard to ensure that we make the streets of Albuquerque as safe as possible. And I'll let them hit a little bit more about the stats, but I know they will talk about the reduction in fatal traffic accidents, and I probably messed up their whole PowerPoint presentation, but it's hard for me to read off paper. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Smathers, and I have the honor of being the Deputy Chief for Special Operations, which includes the Traffic Division. You're going to hear a lot of numbers today, and there's a good story behind each of those numbers, and we're proud of them. As was mentioned previously, we did rededicate ourselves in this bureau and within this division to having a greater impact in the city for traffic safety. That's been the primary focus of everything that we've done. Commander Veers will mention it, but we use a data-driven approach to where we do the work that we do and why we do it. But I'm going to mention just one number that I think kind of encapsulates all the work of these fine men this past year. This year, as I stand here today, there are 25 more families that are going to be home and spend the holidays with their family. We have 25 fewer fatalities in this city as a direct result of their excellent work. So I think that just, honestly, I think we could stop right here. I want you to hear the other numbers, but there's 25 more families that did not have one of these men come to their door and knock on their door and give them that horrible news that a loved one has died in a fatality. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the work that they've done. I'm going to turn it over to Commander Veers, who's going to give you the specifics, but thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Smathers. So like Deputy Chief said, I'm going to go over some of the stats from the past year that the Traffic Division has done. But before I do that, I just wanted to thank the Chief's Office and the Mayor's Office for their continued support to the Traffic Division. We've had a lot of asks from them for personnel, equipment, different things to help make us successful in what we're doing. And they followed through with that and assisted in us being able to accomplish what you're going to see here today. So I just wanted to thank them for that. So earlier this year, when we started this initiative to reduce the fatalities and increase traffic enforcement, I had pulled some numbers for the past several years, and I noticed a direct correlation where the more citations that were issued, the less fatalities there were. And then over the past 5 to 6 years, we saw a decrease in traffic citations, and those fatality numbers kept climbing up, almost equivalent with the reduction in traffic sites. So obviously there was a direct correlation. I did some research into that, and that's not just here in Albuquerque, that's a nationwide trend. So anytime there's less citations issued or less enforcement, that driving behavior has changed and more fatalities and crashes are a result of that. As you can see here, 2021, for the end of the year, we had 86 total fatalities. This year, right now, we're sitting at 61 traffic fatalities. So that is a significant decrease over the past year in our fatalities. We also respond to serious injury crashes. Last year, there was 51 serious injury crashes that we responded to, and this year we're at 37. So overall, crash numbers are down, whether it's fatalities as well as the serious injury crashes that we're responding to. So on both ends, that's good. Like Deputy Chief Smathers had said, there's more families at home because of this. And obviously you hear a lot that there is a high number of pedestrian fatalities. That is a huge concern. Last year we had 36 pedestrian fatalities, and this year we had 23. So it's not just vehicle crashes or motorcycles. This also involves pedestrian fatalities. So we're focusing on any type of crash resulting in a fatality. So whether it's people crossing the road, making it safe for people to walk on the streets, go shopping, do things they need to do, not just traveling in vehicles. So we want to make the streets safe for everybody. We do use a data approach. So traditionally, traffic enforcement has kind of been sporadic through the city. People know there's hot spots. Civilians would call in and complain that there's speeding in this area, people running red lights or stop signs in this area, and officers would respond to those areas to conduct traffic enforcement based on those complaints or areas known for traffic issues. What we've done this past year is we've solely dedicated a lot of our enforcement to data, and that would be operations on the freeway. Obviously, high speeds on the freeway are going to result in fatalities or serious injury crashes. We've done operations in every area command using DDAX, which is a data-driven approach to traffic and crime safety. So what that is basically you overlay crash data with crime data. So not only are we looking at crash and fatalities, but we're looking at a crime aspect that the department is dealing with too. So with short staffing, if we're able to deploy officers to do traffic enforcement and overlay that with crime enforcement, it also reduces crime in those areas as well as reducing those crashes and fatalities. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal there. All of this is based off of data driven from the RTCC, so we use the Real-Time Crime Center. They provide that information. We do a DDAX operation every month. We rotate throughout the entire city. We touch on every area command to make sure that every area that's a hot spot that shows up on this data is touched by the traffic officers, as well as the I-40 and 25 corridor. Another area that was neglected quite a bit in the past was the Central Corridor. We hit that pretty heavily this past year, issuing citations along Central. There's a lot of crime that would deviate off of Central all the way from west to east. So it was very important that we target that area for traffic enforcement to hopefully reduce the crime in that area as well. Just in the Central Corridor, you could see off the stats was over 7,500 tickets just along Central. If you would look at a heat map in the past year, you would have seen very little traffic enforcement done along Central. So we definitely wanted to increase that significantly. Next slide. A new approach we've also taken is aggressive driving along with our hit and run section. There is a new portal that we created with the support of the Chief's Office to allow citizens through evidence.com to upload videos and pictures of aggressive driving and road rage incidents. So we encourage folks to do that. If you see something, video it, take a picture, get a license plate, submit it. We have a detective that views every single video that comes in there, and he will contact that person to let them know that video was reviewed and follow up with it, and then what the outcome of that is, whether there's a citation issued, a criminal summons, or if it leads to an arrest. This detective also works with other units within the department, so if somebody is flagged in this road rage incident who's wanted for a different crime, that can be forwarded to a certain detective agency within our department, and then an arrest can be made based off of that. So we're trying to stem out, work together, have good communication, and use this to assist in other efforts with crime enforcement as well. The last portion of traffic is the abandoned vehicles. This one obviously is less talked about than others, but I did want to highlight one thing in here specifically. This is definitely a quality of life issue related to traffic. They get 6,000 or more referrals every year for abandoned vehicles. These are vehicles parked on the side of the road, left places. They're a nuisance in neighborhoods. RVs are a big one where people are camping out in those, draws a lot of attention. But one thing I wanted to highlight is through their efforts of going through abandoned vehicles, they recovered 92 stolen vehicles, which is a pretty high number for that. So they go through and find a lot of that as well. The next section we're going to talk about is our DWI and some of our racing ops, and I wanted to turn that over to Lieutenant Patterson with the DWI section.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Patterson. I have the honor of leading the DWI section, which comprises the DWI unit and our swing shift motors unit. So I'll talk about the DWI numbers first. First off, like I said, last year we had a significant number of DWI arrests. 607, but we wanted to do better than that. So I charged Sergeant Johnson with trying to do more with less and doing some joint operations with the swing shift motor unit, and we were able to increase those number of DWI arrests to 697 as of today. Obviously, we still have a couple weeks left in the year, so our whole goal is to get that up over that 700 and try and get to around that 725 mark for the year. We had 12 DRE arrests this year, which is that impaired driving due to drugs. I know with the recent legislation and passing the legalization of marijuana, that's been a lot of concern for people across the state and in the city here. To help with that, we also increased 3 new DRE officers. Those officers are assigned to the DWI unit, so they're going through, they're out patrolling the streets looking for those impaired drivers. And if we find them, we want to get them off the streets as well to help keep everybody safe. We've increased our traffic stops, going from a little over 12,000 to a little over 14,000 traffic stops throughout the year, and that's just for the DWI unit. Again, trying to locate those impaired drivers before they cause the crash, before they injure any of our citizens here in the city of Albuquerque. To help with that also, we do our checkpoints. Checkpoints are, even with the change in technology and social media, they're still very effective, and we've seen some very good results from them. We've done 18 checkpoints throughout the year at this point, which have resulted in 83 arrests from those checkpoints. We've also been able to clear 5 misdemeanor warrants and 3 felony warrants, and one stat that's not up there is we've also recovered several guns that were inside of these cars that impaired drivers had on their possession. We'll have a PSA that we have actually coming out here in the next couple of days talking about if you have a firearm in your vehicle. But that's another area that we wanted to highlight, is getting those guns off the streets and away from people who aren't in the right mindset to be holding them. This was a new area for us, the street racing operations. Obviously, thanks to the mayor's office and to the chief for giving me the opportunity to lead this area. Street racing has been an issue in the city of Albuquerque for generations and for a long time, where before we weren't really doing anything to address it. I have a unit that's worked every weekend that they go out and they combat this specific issue. We've done 29 street racing operations and issued over 751 citations in general, with 249 of those specifically for spectating. The city council gave us that ordinance to combat the people that are watching these illegal street races and to try to get rid of that audience. We've been able to take 27 different calls for service that normally the field officers would have been having to take. We've been able to take those off their plates so they can focus on doing the other calls, responding to those domestic violence, those 911 calls, and allowing my officers to deal with those street racing calls. Also, a new initiative to help combat it, we've started using tire deflation devices on these vehicles that are fleeing at a high rate of speed, which can cause more fatalities or more serious injuries for no reason, other than the fact that they want to try and get that thrill of getting away. We've been able to use tire deflation devices and disabled 17 vehicles to keep them from driving that reckless and manner that's going to put more people in danger. We've done some operations with BCSO. A couple months back in June, we had a big operation where we issued 160 citations for spectating. 130 of those were issued by APD. We were able to stop a big intersection takeover event before it started. So that was a big area that we feel very proud of the work that these men and women are doing. And again, the opportunity to lead them has been outstanding. Thank you.
Next Next up, we have Valerie Hermanson. I don't want to get her title wrong. She's the Public Works Strategic Program Manager at DMD. And Vision Zero.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, I have the honor of serving as the Vision Zero lead to lead our Vision Zero efforts. In our first full year of Vision Zero, our teams accomplished a lot of really meaningful change to improve traffic safety for our communities, particularly people are walking and biking. This map shows our high fatal and injury network. This is where recurring fatal and injury crashes are happening, but it's also overlaid with projects that we're implementing to improve traffic safety for all roadway users. Examples on this map include the addition of over 10 miles of buffered bike lanes and regular bike lanes, the implementation of high visibility crosswalks and leading pedestrian intervals, which make it easier for people to cross the street, and narrowing travel lanes, which encourages drivers to slow down. Our team also successfully hosted 2 education and encourage events, Bike to Wherever Day, as well as Bike Through Borque, which encourage residents to try bicycling for transportation. And last but not least, our team also successfully implemented the Vision Zero program. This is an interdepartmental coordination. Our team gets to lead it, but we are very appreciative of APD for all their efforts in making this a successful program. Automated speed enforcement, or speed safety cameras as I like to call them, are a core principle to Vision Zero's approach, since we know from comprehensive data that people are less likely to survive high-speed crashes. And this is not only true for people inside an automobile, but it's especially true for people outside of an automobile. High-speed driving increases the frequency and the severity of crashes. You probably have heard the theme, a data-driven approach, and ASC is in that boat as well. We use a data-driven approach to identify and implement speed safety cameras. This year we've implemented 10, and we're currently using that data-driven approach to identify additional speed safety camera locations based on data, which we hope to add in the near future. As you can see, as of September 6th, we stopped issuing warnings, and we are only issuing citations. And I always like to note that the purpose of this program is to improve safety. It's really not to catch unsuspecting drivers in Albuquerque. What we've seen in other places that have speed safety cameras is that revenues fall over time because repeat offenders are rare. We use funds generated from this program back into traffic safety improvements, which we hope will someday make a program like this obsolete. We're really excited about all the progress we've made in 2022, and we look forward to continuing this important work in 2023. Thank you.
So we'll open it up for questions, and we can kind of designate who's the best to answer. Anybody have any questions? Jessica?
How big is the traffic division or unit? How many officers?
So the traffic division includes DWI as well as motors. There is 19 motor officers, and there is 5 DWI officers.
Is it running 24/7?
Just about. It's probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It is not 24/7, and the rest of the week it is about 4 hours shy of 24/7.
Any other questions?
I think you may have already answered this question, but does the increase in citations include the speed camera tickets also?
No, those are just actual citations written by a police officer.
And going back to Jessica's question, you know, that was one of the major changes that as an administration, we wanted to address. We worked with Commander Veers when he first got there, and we realized the traffic section had become Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and we expanded their hours because we wanted more coverage during all parts of the day. So that's one of those changes that we made as leadership to make sure that we had more coverage over different parts of the day.
Are there times or days where there's more of a frequency of violations or hours of the day, something like that?
Yes and no. And the reason I say that is it depends on what the violation is. So different violations are going to occur at different times. So obviously racing, those type of violations, excuse me, the modified exhaust, typically those are going to run into the weekend and late hours. Exhaust could be 24/7, cars driving around. Speeding, you're going to have your peak times of traffic, so rush hours. You're not gonna see as much during rush hour because of the heavy traffic flow, but in between, you'll see more speeding in between there. Running red lights, stop signs, those type of things, that it just all varies based on what the specific violation is.
So you mentioned those modified exhaust tickets as well. I wonder how you guys deal with someone maybe who had their like catalytic converter stolen, or their car is just inherently louder because that got stolen. Like how you guys handle those cases?
Each traffic stop, the officer is going to contact the driver, and obviously if they notify the officer, hey, this has been stolen, they would look into that, and that would be a non-issue.
Do you have any data on the performance of the speed cameras as far as how many people are actually paying the citation within the time frame or signing up for the community service elements?
That's going to be a Valerie question.
Yeah, I don't have that data right in front of me, but I can report that we've seen a 40 to 70% decrease in speeding for the 3 cameras that have been in place the longest. What we've learned from peer cities and best practice is that it takes at least a year of data to really see that true behavior change. And those 3 cameras that stat is referencing is the 2 cameras on Gibson as well as the Montgomery camera. As far as community service hours, to date we've seen 447 community service hours completed.
You don't know the default rate on these tickets yet?
I don't have that information, but I can get with our PIO and provide that data.
On the camera thing also, do you know the plans for the rollout of the noise cameras that were passed by City Council?
I can indicate, we're studying that right now. We're looking at some cities that have them in place. We're gathering data, talking to vendors, and then we'll do a test on those like we did with the automated speed, see what the pros and cons are, installation challenges, et cetera. So we are working on that, and then we'll obviously make a presentation to council for direction related to that. But we are on the onset for it, but we are looking into that now.
Yeah, we want it too. So, I mean, this is about the city of Albuquerque, not who requested it. So we're excited about it. We're gonna do as fast as we can.
You know, and I think you gotta remember one of the key things there, 40 to 70% reduction on the streets that we implemented these cameras. I mean, the more we could grow this program, the more we will slow people down in the city of Albuquerque. And this is another one of those things that, you know, the mayor's office, the administration, council, everybody working together is like, this was a bold move where we had to not be afraid to do what was best for our city. There were a lot of discussions about speed cameras in the past, and we made the decision to go forward, and our city is safer because we had the courage to make that decision.
How much money would a driver does drive aggressively or speed look to save, you know, by not making a violation? What's the dollar figure?
On like a speeding ticket?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I just thought it would be a good soundbite.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I just want to make sure I answer it correctly.
I mean, what's the range, dollar amount for tickets and citations that are issued? What's like the dollar amount?
By an officer?
Yeah.
So that could range anywhere from just under $100 up to $200 to $300. Depends on the speed. They go in increments of speed. So if you're going, 1 to 9 mile an hour, that's going to be a certain range, like $89, $90. And then you go to the next increment, and then as you increase the speed, then the citation fee increases as well.
Thank you. Hope that wasn't too.
And I don't have the specific breakdown. I'd provide that, but I don't have that in front of me.
Go ahead.
And if I got this correct, you guys mentioned that this year there were 10 cameras, speed cameras implemented, correct? Is there an idea of how many could be implemented for the upcoming weeks?
I think that's to be determined. Yeah.
Hopefully more.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Real quick, these citations that are being issued in Albuquerque, the metro, are there areas that are being issued more than other areas? You guys said the central corridor, are there areas that are like, you guys are just putting out?
No, I mean, if we pull it up on a heat map, I don't have that today. This is something I can get with you later on if you want the information. But when we have the real-time crime center pull up a heat map and heat map and it shows traffic citations by traffic stop, you'll see red dots over the entire city. There's not concentrated areas. I mean, it's going to be everywhere, and all that is based off of data. So the type of citation that's being issued in those areas are going to be, like I said, if it's a speeding complaint, if it's racing, if it's, you know, people running red lights, stop signs. There's going to be different violations they're focusing on in different areas, but you're going to see it all over the city. There isn't specific areas they concentrate on more.
What kind of trends with the holidays here, Christmas coming up, New Year's coming up, what kind of trends do you see in speeding and DWI enforcement, but also as it becomes colder and conditions outside can be poor with reckless driving, icy roads and stuff, what kind of trends this time of year do you see with having to stop drivers who are not driving like they should this time of year?
I'd say some of the most common we would see this time of year, obviously the DWIs increase during the holiday season. More families are getting together, more people are consuming alcohol. Your summertime is where you're going to see more of your racing, your speeding, a lot of that because people are out and about in the evenings, people go out and race, do that type of stuff. In the wintertime, we see that a little bit less just because it's colder. People aren't as out that late at night or doing those activities typically. Plus they're busy with the holiday stuff that they're not spending their time racing or doing those type of events that are reckless. So it kind of depends. You see it more of an increase in the winter of the DWI, but then a more of an increase in the summer of your racing and speeding. So just different seasons come with different types of violations, but throughout the year, you're constantly seeing traffic violations everywhere you go. It just kind of changes throughout the year.
So it's not so cyclical. It's a similar amount of citations, but for different reasons.
Yes.
You know, one thing to remember, one trend over the holiday season is more and more we have the availability of free ride home. I mean, the county invests money in through the DWI Council. There are a lot of options for people to use rideshare to get home safely. So I think it's important we remind the public about that, is that do not be irresponsible. There are options for you to get home, and I see that if we utilized more, and the one thing I'll give a compliment to this younger generation is, you see this younger generation, they're more in tune with using rideshare and making sure that they find a safe way home, and we got to get that message out to some of our older generations who aren't used to the technology and the options that are available out there, and I think we really could continue to reduce and work on lowering it, because DWI no longer is a crime that needs to occur. There are so many options out there for people to get home safely. They just need to learn. If you're out drinking at a bar, I'm sure you could afford a little bit more to get home on a safe ride share.
$20 for a lift is cheaper than a couple $100 in a jail visit.
Good on questions? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.